Hey, this is Arthur D'Souza, and I'm making this YouTube video mostly for a few close friends of mine, but if anybody else on YouTube happens to find this and can do good on the MCAT from my knowledge, then this is what I'm here for. So obviously today I'm going to be going over what the MCAT is and some more questions about it, like when you take it, what I got on it, and my study schedule, and how I got a 515 on the MCAT. So there's a small subject about the MCAT. The MCAT is the medical college admission test you got to take to get into medical school. Most medical schools require it. It's a kind of a really long test that trying to test your knowledge to see if you're gonna have the mental abilities to do well in medical school. So when should you take it? I took mine in April, and it kind of just depends on when you think that you're going to be applying. If in my situation, I'm not taking a gap year. I was a third year, and I wanted to apply and have my application and everything in as soon as possible on the first day, which is what a lot of people are. So if you're in that boat, taking it in April is a good idea if you want to still do well in your finals, because then you don't have to balance taking your finals. In most schools, they do it in early May, end of April. I took mine April 9th, and then took my finals a few weeks later, so it gave me some time to study on my finals and stuff. Or you can take it in mid-May, and then medical schools will still get your MCAT score by a good amount of time. But if you are taking a gap year, or if you have time during the summer, and let's say you're taking it as a sophomore, taking it during the summer probably the best idea, because you don't if you're able to not take summer classes and not have a job, then you can just study 8 hours a day, get it done in about 3 months, and take it in August or September. That'll probably be the best case scenario if you're taking a gap year. But general rule is just earlier the better. So what classes should you use to prepare for the MCAT? People have really different views on this. I took all of the prereqs for medical school except Orgo 2, and those prereqs kind of coincide with the MCAT. So for the MCAT, you definitely should take biochem. You should take physics 1 and 2. People say you can learn physics 2 by yourself, but I would not be able to do that. Definitely Gen Chem 1 and 2, Orgo 1. I didn't take Orgo 2. I didn't think I needed it. And psychology and sociology are good if you can take it, but people say you can self-study that as well. And then a large part of the biochem section was anatomy. So, and it's not really a prerequisite, people don't really talk about it, but I took anatomy and physiology, and it definitely helped me in that section. So how long should you prepare? This is where people go a little crazy, and you have those people that on YouTube, they're telling you, oh, I went to this Ivy League university, I studied for 800 hours or whatever. I'm kind of doing this for more of a basic and realistic way to study for somebody that's not going to an Ivy League university but still wants to do really well in their MCAT. So I studied closer to 600 hours, but I also did go a little overboard. I think about 500 is definitely a good point to hit. I think if you go over like 700 hours, it's just a little excessive. So I got right in that middle range. So how should you prepare? So the first thing you got to do is you take a diagnostic test. I took a diagnostic test from Blueprint and got a 490 on it. So I was pretty taken back by it, but obviously you see I got a 515 on my actual MCAT. So that doesn't really matter. It's just going to show you where you are and what you need to improve. And then definitely got to buy some type of books. So I bought the Kaplan books, which I'm actually using to hold up my camera right now. So I read all the Kaplan books except for the cars section of the books, and I think that was really necessary. And then you got to start practice after you read all the books. While you're reading the books, you should also do some Jack Weston for the cars practice. And then after you finish reading the books, then you got to do some practice questions. You can put some practice questions while I read the books. That's not how I did it, but it would definitely work. And then do some practice questions in whatever way you want. I really recommend UWorld. I love UWorld. It's definitely a little bit expensive, but I think it's worth it. and supplementing some Anki while you're doing both the reading and the practice questions. Both, you can either make your own cards. I don't recommend that. The cards that I use, there is a Kaplan card that I tried out, but it's 6,000 cards and it was just way too much. So in the middle of my studying, I ended up using Miles Down, and I'm so glad that I did. Miles Down is certainly one of the good reasons why I ended up getting a 515. And then once you're getting in the end of your studying, you should just be focusing on AMC. And it really depends on your schedule. So since I had a 4-month schedule, I really only had time for AMC, but if you have time for AMC and a little bit of UWorld, that's good too. You just have to decide how long you're gonna study for. And I'm mostly gonna be talking about my study schedule, which is a 4-month study schedule, which I started in December and then ended in April 9th. So for the first month of my study schedule, I did 2 chapters of reading a day. I was studying for about 8 hours a day. So this was during December, during my winter break. So that's the good thing about taking your tests in April or May, is that if you are taking classes, that you'll have that summer break to really grind down and finish your books. So I was doing 2 chapters a day, and for about 6 days a week, trying to give myself 1 rest day. And in that rest day, I would end up usually trying to do some Anki, just to switch it up. And then if I had some time during my days of studying, I would do Anki as well at night. And I would generally, to split up the 2 chapters, I would do 1 chapter that I liked and 1 chapter that I did not like. So for example, I really hate physics, but I really like the psychology, the behavioral sciences book for the Kaplan. So I put those 2 together. And then for the other books, I kind of just focused on, if it's a really skinny book, like the Orgo book, I put that along with my biochem book, so that I knew I had to read like really long chapter for biochem, but at least afterwards I had a smaller Orgo section. And then, doing it whatever way you'd like, but just focusing on getting that 2 chapters a day in. And then once you're doing that, it took me about 6 weeks to get that done, because there's 72 chapters, 12 chapters a book, and I read 6 books, so 72, and that took me about 6 weeks. And right after that, I took my first full length, and on my first full length, I got a 496. I did the Kaplan full lengths I did 2 or 3 of those. I got it from like a bundle off Amazon. I can link that down below. And if I'm looking over here, it's just gonna have my notes over here. So about the 6-week mark, I took my first full length, which was close to 2 months away from my test date, which is what I would recommend to do about 2 months before your test date. A little more if you have more exams to take. Try to take your first full length. And then I started doing some UWorld questions, and right after I finished my books. So then this is right when school started kicking up, and I was trying to do 100 questions a day. It wasn't really realistic, so I ended up doing, maybe close to 80 on a good day. But I try to hit that 100 if I could. I would usually try to bundle. UWorld comes with like separate sections. It'll come with a bio section, a physics section, chemistry section, orgo section. Try to bundle the actual sections that you're going to see on the MCAT. So if you're taking UWorld, bundle the orgo, gen chem, and physics sections together. And then I usually would do about like either 30 minutes to 40 or 50 minutes of practice, which ended up being about 20 to 30 questions. Definitely starting off with not timed and then getting timed questions in as you get closer to your test date would probably be the best idea. So then I started getting to my 3rd month, and in my 3rd month, I was just focusing on UWorld. Again, this is when my school started to kick up, so it's okay to, focus on school a little bit, just to have that memory in mind, and just, keep doing your Anki as you go. That really helps. And as you're doing this UWorld, I really recommend, you can save their graphs, because their graphs are great. You can save their graphs into UWorld itself, into your little notebook, or you can copy it into Anki. I did that, and having a separate little folder. I have my folder for miles down, and I had my other folder for my Anki mistakes, or my UWorld mistakes. And going through that daily and hashing out the stuff that I got wrong really helped me. And this is something that I would do also for my full lengths. So I would take a full length. I would try to take it the same day that I was going to take my actual MCAT, which is on the Saturday, and then on the Sunday I would take the whole day. It literally takes me longer times to review my full length than to take the full length, because I was getting a lot of questions wrong in the beginning, and just putting that stuff into Anki so that you can constantly be bettering yourself. Definitely the plan that you should try to focus on. And then the 4th month, I started doing just strictly focusing on AMC. If I had some time, I try to do a little bit of UWorld as well, just to get some content stuff that I hadn't gotten down yet. And I was doing 1 full length a week. I did take the AMC sample. I got a 509 on it. I definitely think it's useful. I think you should take it. And my first full length, I ended up getting a 506, which I was pretty sad about. And then my second full length for AMC, I got a 502. So this stuff was really going down. It's about 2-3 weeks away from my full MCAT date. And I was thinking about pushing it back. I'm very glad I didn't, because I took my next exam and then I got a 509 on it for full length 3. And on my full length 4, I ended up getting a 512. And that was just really focusing on cars, and I'll talk about cars a little bit later. But that shows you just, stay committed, keep grinding, keep working hard, and really start reviewing your mistakes, and then you'll end up doing better the more you work on it, right? For the AMC practices, I was getting about like a 70% on them for the section banks and the Q banks. I was getting about 70s on them, and then closer to 80s, or in the 80s in my last couple weeks of prep. And the same thing for UWorld. UWorld, you really don't have to try to get like 90% like you try to do in university. Getting near the 70s is great. I was averaging a 70. And I didn't even get through all of UWorld. I just didn't have time because of school. And my full length, or my UWorld average is not even a 70%. So it's completely fine as long as you're learning from those mistakes. And if you don't finish UWorld, that's fine too. But if you can focus on that, that's great. So how do I review my practice questions and full lengths? So like I said, doing the Anki is definitely the best way. I know some people do sheets or Excel, and I hated that. It worked fine and made me feel good, but at the end, I would never look at those again. So I was doing that for my Kaplan. I got a 496, and I got a 505, and then I ended up getting a 503 on the first blueprint. And I just, inconsistent, and I wasn't checking my mistakes because I wasn't forced to. But with Anki, it's right in your face. It's telling you, you got to review these right now. So that helped me really focus on it and review my questions. So I definitely recommend doing Anki to review it. It's definitely gonna take a lot of time, but it's definitely worth it. So now I'm gonna talk about this separate different sections. The main focus people have and people struggle with is cars. And for me, that's definitely something that I struggled with. For the AMC sample, I got a 130 on it, which was fantastic. But my next one, I got a 124, and then I got a 123 on full length 3. So I was just going down, and I was, I wasn't very happy with myself. I was pretty disappointed. But cars, I found out, is a mental game. I watched this one YouTube video, and he explained it very well, that it's so much of a mental game that you'll do a question and you won't be able to find out, and then you'll waste time on it, and then next thing you know, you're like 5-10 minutes behind, and you're rushing to finish the rest of the exam, and you're worried about the previous questions that you missed. And you really can't do that if you want to improve in cars. First thing that you got to do is you got to practice Jack Weston, like I said before. Do that every single day with, start out with one and then, 2 or 3 passages as you get better. Start out with a good amount of time and then start slowly crunching down your time, progressive overload. Getting to where you want to be is going to start with being super slow, getting 15 minutes per passage when it's supposed to be a 10-minute passage. But as you get better, as you start getting more questions right, shorten it down from 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, and maybe, if you're doing really good, put 9 for the amount of time that you have, and then add some passages as well as you're going through it. But practice is definitely your friend. Once I started doing the AMC passage practices, I started off horribly, but I ended up doing better and better as I went on because of my mindset. I also started using an animated voice as I read, because that would keep my mind engaged as well, so I wouldn't just drift off, and I would end up learning more, because in my head I sounded more excited. It sounds stupid, but if you're really having trouble with chords, I'll definitely try that. And biggest thing is don't take too much time on just one question. You're one of the smartest people you probably know the answer, so just be confident, pick your answer, and do not worry about it. That is my biggest advice. Do not worry about your questions before. If you're having trouble, there's going to be harder questions, so you got to pick this question, be confident with A, B, C, or D, be confident with it, pick it, move on. Pick, move on. That's what you got to do for cars. For PS, psychology and sociology, my biggest thing was definitely doing the Anki miles down. That definitely helped. Obviously you got to get your content down when you're reading the books, but after you do that, being able to do Anki over and over and over and over and over again to get that content down, that's what helped me with that. For the rest, it's really just practice and getting the memory down through the books and through Anki. That's how I did start doing better with biochem and chemistry and physics section. Chemistry and physics is always going to be a tough one for people, but the more you practice, the better you get it. And just remember the formulas. That's a big thing. And being able to pick out certain words that you see, and knowing what formulas to plug into. That was something that clicked in my head the last month, and that's when I started focusing more on the formulas and being able to pick out words that I saw in the passage. That allowed me to really start doing better in my practice questions and full lengths. So what are you gonna do for your full lengths? So one of the last questions. So for the full lengths, like I said, you start taking about 2 months prior to your MCAT date. If you have more tests available, great. You can purchase tests online. I heard Blueprint are great. Kaplan is all right. But I would take them on a Saturday. That's what I'll try to take it, because that's when I would take my real exam. I would try to wake up at the same time I needed to. I ended up, from the beginning, with only waking up at 7 because the exam starts at 8. I definitely recommend waking up earlier, trying to get your mood straight, because I did that for a while, and then by the time my full length 4, I woke up 2 hours, 3 hours before my exam started, so 5:30 maybe, and drove to my testing center and played some good music, and it got me in a way better headspace. I think that's why I started doing better on it, instead of just waking up, rolling over, and taking your exam at 8. Definitely, wake up, get situated. I eat the same breakfast every single time. I try to eat the same food that I was going to eat on the actual MCAT date. I think that really helps. Simulating everything that you're going to do on the actual date is going to take away a bunch of your anxiety. I had a bunch of anxiety, but on the actual test date, but I just blasted music in my car, try to get a good mindset about it, and then that's what really helped. And even having a good mindset during your exams, especially your actual MCAT date, your MCAT exam, that's going to be a big key as well. I was pretty nervous after my CP section, but I was like, that's just one section, let me go back and do better. And after that, my cars, I kept focusing on it. I knew I was doing well, so I just kept having a positive mindset, and I think that's really big. Just to go over my breakdown for my MCAT scores. So I already talked about this a little bit, but I got a 490 on the Blueprint diagnostic, Took the Kaplan full length 4 and I got a 496. I got a 505 in full length 2. Took Kaplan full length 3, got a 502. Took it the blueprint, got a 503. And then I took the sample for AMC, got a 509. And then I took full length 1 for AMC, got a 506, then a 502, then a 509, then a 513. So all over, but consistently I was trying to better myself, work on my mistakes, especially in that last little bit. So, you know, biggest advice is keep grinding, keep working. If you see that you're making mistakes, you know, change your plan. That'll definitely help you. And always look to better yourself, better your knowledge in the content, and fix your mistakes, and you'll get there. If you guys have any more questions, let me know, and I'll probably answer them in the next video.